This will be seen as very good news for large groups of people. Campaigners have urged the BBC not to prosecute over 75s after it emerged that 1 in 7 older viewers has not yet bought a TV licence. Yesterday, the corporation confirmed that 6 months after the automatic free licences for those aged over 75 was abolished, about 750,000 such households have yet to pay for a licence. However, the BBC said that good progress was being made in encouraging all 4.2 million homes affected to comply with the new rules. Will they be rolling over anytime soon? Will Wyatt is a former BBC executive, of course. Afternoon to you, Will.
Good afternoon.
Just reading that last line there, the BBC said good progress is being made. So this was, I don't know if victory is the right word here, but that's how perhaps some would see it, a victory for the BBC.
No, I don't think it's victory. I mean, the BBC was lumbered with this piece of social policy, which is not its business at all. If it had allowed everyone to have over 75 to have a free license fee, it would have been an absolutely crippling cost to the organisation, and there would have been cuts to channels and goodness knows what else. I think what's happened at the moment, 2.7 million, I understand, of those eligible have bought license fees, and so there are still a minority have not yet paid. But I think the BBC's strategy is to go softly, and quite properly, I think, given the state the country is in, not to charge at this. They've approached people who are eligible, who should be paying a license fee now, and as I say, most of them have paid. Those who haven't have had letters, but no visits. There's no heavy pressure as yet. Whether there will be, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know that as you said at the beginning, Will, this isn't the making of the BBC. It's not there that they found themselves in this position, but some might not unreasonably argue that this would have been a good time for the BBC to perhaps listen to some public opinion and say, you know what, if it means curtailing or cutting, removing some elements of what we do, now would be a good time to do it. We could then make the argument that we the BBC, not the government, are offering these free licenses for older people who can perhaps least afford it and perhaps would be our biggest viewing court as well. That would have been a good PR moment for the Beeb. Have they missed something here?
Well, yeah, they've done all that. They've done that to a degree. You know, there will be free licenses for those on supplementary allowances and so on, and so it's not as if everyone is being hit like this. So in that, which was a good step, and I think an inevitable one, but the level of now you already had 2.7 million, I understand, pay the license fee of those who now should qualify. Is a bit hard to say to those who haven't paid so far. Okay, you needn't pay, although some of them have.
What are your thoughts, Will, on the longer story of the BBC? Because we can all, I think, safely say this discussion about the future of the state broadcaster isn't going away. I think we can probably all force ourselves to take that leap that it's going to change as well. I mean, if we were sitting here in 10 years' time, what do you think the BBC might look like?
Well, I mean, it's changed a massive amount as it is. I think the real issue is what will be the best way to fund the BBC when the current licence fee settlement runs out in, 6 years' time? Yeah. That's the question. I think it's hard to see the licence fee in its current form carrying on for another 10 years. I don't think that will be the case. On the other hand, the important thing about the BBC is that its services are available to everyone. And it can then afford to do things which would be hard for others to afford to do, to make them available to people who would find them costly or not there at all without. Yeah. So I think, one idea is that some kind of a levy on broadband or something like that, which would be pretty well a universal charge. And that, of course, if it's universal, it does keep the cost down a lot. If you start thinking about going to subscription or something, then you haven't got the BBC any longer. I'm sure it could be a very successful business, but it wouldn't do half the things it does now.
Indeed. Will, thank you. Will Wyatt, former BBC executive. He was top of the tree in his world. You've heard where this story is likely to go over many debates we've done on this. The future, it's clearly not, well, it's not going to be there, is it, in 10 years' time in that form? Is there any form for it? What about free TV for older people who can least afford it? There's an argument there. I'm sure not every pensioner can afford Netflix or Disney Plus or Amazon or Apple. So there's something in that, right? Where do you go with that? Does that become just a news model? I don't know. This in from Chelsea Hare, who says, if Ian Collins and his colleagues didn't hold and push views consistent with the direction of his employer, they would be sacked. No free speech at Talk Radio. I've had versions of that comment for 20 years. It's funny, isn't it? And I've never once had a discussion with an employer about the view I should have or hold, and the employer has never asked, because if you think about the nonsense of that, how far would you have to go with that? Would you just give your views on, I don't know, Brexit and economics? Would that be enough for your employer to go, yeah, they're a good one, they reflect my views? Would you have to go deeper than that, like the TV licence that I've just not advocated abolishing, whereas you could listen to Kevin O'Sullivan or Mike Graham and they would advocate abolishing it? Vaccinations, I'm not having the vaccination. Julia Hartley-Brewer, it is having the vaccine. Well, I assume Julia is very positive about the vaccines, etc. I can't speak on behalf of her in that respect. So there's lots of differing views there. What about vaccinate? Do I have to have the same view? Because we've all got kind of slightly nuanced views on these things. And some of them are pretty... I mean, if you listen to Christo or James Whale, James Whale's views on lockdown and the like are completely different to Julia's views. My views are different to Christo's views. Mike Graham's are different to Mark Dolan's views. I mean, the list goes on. But even if you were to have this, like, well, we've got to reflect the views of the... I mean, it's just a nonsense. No company could survive like that. A station like this could not survive if you were all the time thinking, right, what is the opinion I have to have on this? I have to think this way. Now, I know people will counter that and go, but as long as you're broadly... Well, yes, what's wrong with that? That's like saying if you own a sports station, then, you know, you've all got to be interested in sport. Yeah, that's probably true. All the presenters have got to be very interested in sport and have their own teams that they nail their colours to as well, is also quite useful. And also a tacit knowledge of other sports outside their own comfort zone. So there would be nothing wrong on a genre-based radio station saying, can we employ people who have big opinions on big issues of the day that are not going to parrot a Guardian line on these things, but beyond that, you can say whatever the heck you like.